Hey Friday night knitters, it's Louise back here. So, hey, thank you so much for all your patience last night while I was trying to get this Moebius Cast On and my crazy technology to work. So anyways, I've got my phone set up here, so I'm going to try to give you a quick rundown on that Moebius Cast On, okay? So what I've got here to start with is I have a 40-inch needle. Got a nice long cable here, okay? And I'm going to find the end of my yarn and just leave a short tail just long enough to weave in and make a slip knot. Take one of your needle tips, your left hand needle tip, and slide that stitch, that slip knot on there, snug it up, slide it all the way to the join here. We're going to leave it sit here on the cable. Now, find your other needle tip here. You're going to hold this in your right hand. Then you're going to want to separate out your tail and your working yarn here. So, my tail is here. We'll get that out of the way. You want your working yarn to be held back here behind the cable. Okay? I'm just going to wrap it around my pinky finger and around my index finger. So now see here how we've got like a V. The yarn coming out over my index finger and the cable is making a V. We want to keep that V. So we're going to, okay, just getting started here. It's just a little tricky, just keeping the slip knot steady, just so it's not slipping around. So we're going to take the right hand needle tip. We're going to have it all in front of all of our work here. It's in front of the cable, it's in front of the needle. So here it is in front. We're going to scoop it under the cable. We're going to come up in the center of the yarn. Here, just wait. I'm going to try to move some of those out of the way so it's not distracting for you. So let's start this right from scratch here. We've got our right needle tip in the front. We're going to come in front of the cable, under the cable, and up through the center of our V. We're going to go over top of our yarn, scoop that yarn up, bring it under the cable, and right back up. So there is our first stitch. That's what I call the big stitch, just because it's got a lot of movements to it. Now for the second stitch, we're going to take our needle tip, we're going to go over top of the yarn and scoop it up. There's our first stitch, there's our second. So now we're just going to keep repeating those two stitches. The needle tip comes in front of the cable, under the cable, up through the V, over top of the yarn, scoop up that yarn and bring it under the cable and back up. So now we've got a third stitch. Now we're going to do the little short stitch just over top of the yarn and wrap it over the needle. So up through the V, over top of the yarn, bring it under the cable and back up. Now do the little short stitch, go behind the yarn and scoop it up. Pretty simple, right? So once you get going, this gets pretty rhythmic. And your fingers just kind of do all the work for you. So just as a recap, now when you're wanting to count your stitches, don't worry about what's down here on this cable. All we're counting is what's up here on the needle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches. So I'm going to pause this just for a moment. I'm going to cast on enough to get all the way around the needle, and I will come back and we'll carry on. I will see you in a moment. Okay, so here we are. I've cast on all of these stitches. But see, we've got all this cable still here that's not used. All we need to do with that is just slide that in. And it's going to, see how that's all just snugged up here? So now there's two things we need to do. Oh no, my stitch markers. All right. I need to pause for one moment. I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that. I just panicked. I looked down and couldn't find either one of my stitch markers because, like we talked about last night, we do want to have two different stitch markers, one to mark the beginning of the round and one to mark the halfway point. So we'll see if I can keep track of them here. I'm going to put this yellow one on here to mark my beginning of the round. So before, just like when we do regular knitting in the round, we want to make sure that there's, well, in this case for the Moebius, we want one twist. So what I like to do is just keep track here. We've got a knitting needle, and I just always put the needle on the outside and just go around here, just making sure that that one cable from the knitting needle stays on the top here and that you don't feel any twists. So it is twisted right here. Can you see that twist right there? I'm going to untwist that. So we keep kind of got a mess here, but that's all right. We'll figure. So I'm going to keep untwisting this here, keeping this all. Now what I want is just to have one twist right here at where the needle goes over. I'm going to slide these stitches out here so you can see this. Maybe I'll turn it this way. So right here, right where the needle is crossing over this cable, that is our one twist. That's what's going to give us that Moebius, that figure 8 shape. Okay, so my beginning of the round marker fell off, so I'm going to pop that back on. Now I'm going to knit around the first round, the first half of the stitches on here. Every other stitch is going to be twisted. It's going to be on the needle backwards. So not to worry about that. Just knit the stitches as you come to them. So when it's on the needle the correct way, just knit it. When you see that one of the stitches is backwards, just knit it through the back of the loop. Okay, so there's one that's backwards, so I'm going to go through the back of the loop. And then sometimes some of the stitches like to sit on top of one another, so you just have to just carefully untwist them. I'll try to get that in a little bit of focus. So anyway, so now I'm going to go around here. And I'm going to pause it for a moment, and I'm going to knit around to the halfway mark, and I'll show you what that's going to look like. Because see how our yellow stitch marker is slowly moving down here? I'll come back in a moment and show you what it looks like when we are at the halfway round mark. All right? Okay, so here we are back here. I've knit around. See, my beginning of the round marker is almost up at the top here. I've got 3 more stitches to knit. So we'll work these. So this, I wanted to remind you that this is how you know when you are at that halfway mark, is when your beginning of the round marker is right there on that bottom cable between your needle tips. Now you know you've gone halfway. So now this is where the flip happens in the Moebius. We start working here. Now the rest of these stitches are going to be mounted the correct way. So there'll be no more going through the back. Well, I've got one more here. We'll do this one, and then after this, everything's going to be mounted correctly. So you can just knit along until we'll come back and we'll show you what it looks like when we've got the beginning of the round marker. And you can see that. So give me a moment here. Let me zoom around this needle and I'll come back and show you what it looks like when we've got one full round knit. Okay, so did anybody catch what I forgot to do? I've just merrily knitted along. After I showed you where we had gotten to our halfway mark, I carried on, and I totally forgot to put in my halfway marker on my needle. So I have unknit. So unknitting here for the Moebius is, okay, I was just going to say is exactly the same, but something is, all right, it's a little funny stitch, but we're not going to worry about that right now. But we are going to get ourselves back here. Okay, so there is our halfway mark. Our beginning of the round marker is on the cable. Now I have, obviously I've done something funny here, but we're just going to ignore that because this is just a learning more or less. So, but anyways, that should have unpicked better than that. Or maybe I can just snug it up. That's looking better. Okay, so now I've put on my halfway marker, the little brass one. So that is on our needle. So when you get to that halfway mark, you want to have both stitch markers on there. We want the beginning of the round and the halfway marker on there. So now I'm set to carry on and just knit around. And see, as we knit, both these markers are going to get work their way farther down until they're back around the beginning here. So I'm going to work around the row and we'll come back and we'll see what it looks like when we've completed the one round. Okay, so here we are. I've gone all the way around. I'm back to my last 3 stitches here. So we can see our stitch markers have come around and we're back almost to the left needle tip. So I'm just going to work the last 3 stitches, and my yellow marker was my beginning of round marker. So, and as you can see here, this is how we know we're back. We've got one full round done is when this marker is right on our needle tip and we can slide it over. Our halfway markers down here, our full round markers up here. So I've done one full round. And just as a reminder, the number of stitches that you cast on, that's going to make the diameter around of your project. So if you were casting on, say, 80 stitches and might make a nice close fitting cowl, if you cast on 200 stitches, you could make a nice long cowl that could wrap around your neck twice. And the width that you make is the number of rounds that you knit. So have fun. Hopefully this will get you started, or maybe has piqued your interest in trying a true Moebius. It's super fun, and like we talked before, when you knit with striped yarn, it comes out really fun colorways. It's super fun. It's something worth a try. So hopefully this has helped. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. I'm going to post this on our group page so everybody can take a look. And happy knitting. Have fun, everyone. See you soon.